Hello, students. We got some more absolute value inequalities. We've got to solve each of these. We're doing the boring bus stop. Here we go. The absolute value of 4x plus 1 has got to be less than 19. Okay, so if you have an absolute value less than a number, you need to put the stuff inside the symbol between the positive and negative versions of that number. Okay, it's like saying, hey, the absolute value of this distance has to be less than 19. Well, which two numbers have a distance of 19? Positive 19 and negative 19. Oh, so the distance of this has to be less than the distances of 19. What are the distances of 19? 19 and negative 19. So it's got to be between them. It's got to be less than. All right, so it's got to be in between them. All right, so here we go. Once you get the set up, it's actually not that bad. So here we go. Let's do one step at a time. Minus 1. Remember, with these compound inequalities, whatever you do to the inside, you should do to the outsides. Rewrite 4x less than. 19 minus 1 is an 18. Negative 19 minus 1 is a negative 20. Divide everything by 4. You might get decimals. Big whoop. They're numbers too. Here we go. Goodbye, you're gone. Canceled you. Let's see, 18 divided by 4, I believe, is 4.5. So x is going to be less than 4.5. And then negative 20 divided by 4 is going to be a negative 5. So there we go. X is in between negative 5 and 4.5. So let's go up to our blank. X is going to be, or negative 5 is going to be my first number, and 4.5 is going to be my larger number. There we go. X has got to be between negative 5 and 4.5 to work properly with math. All right, so the other one that's a little bit more tricky is when you have a greater than. When the absolute value of something is greater than a number, like 34 in this case, okay? Two ways to do it. You can write it individually. The first one's actually easy. Just drop the symbols. 5x minus 2 is going to be greater than 34, but it also needs to be less than the negative. So anytime you're greater than, your distance has to be greater than the positive, but then your distance has to be less than the negative, because less than 34 is where you get longer numbers in terms of distance. So if you're greater than a distance, you got to be greater than the positive and less than negative. Now, you could also write it this way. I think this would be mathematically accurate, but it's just really confusing when you go to answer it because we don't answer intervals this way. So you could do the math like this, but I feel it's always safer since you're going to get a split. You're going to get an OR always with these. I think it's best just to solve the two individually. This mathematically might be okay for you, but it won't make a lot of sense when you get to the final answer. So you could solve it this way. I just wouldn't be my favorite. So let's go ahead and solve this bad boy up here. Here we go. Or each of these. Here we go. First move, I would add 2 to both sides. I'm going to go ahead and do the first steps for each of them since they'd be the same move anyway. We would have a 5x less than, we've got a negative 34 plus 2 would get us to a negative 32. Okay, over here we'd have a 5x is greater than a 36. Doesn't take that much longer. Divide everything by 5, cancel. Negative 32 divided by 5, I think that's like 6.4. I just want to double check. It's early, coffee hasn't kicked in yet, so I like to be safe. Here we go, yep, negative 6.4. So one of my answers is going to be, I'm going to skip all this noise right here. X is going to be less than a negative 6.4. So where's my less than? Right there. X is less than a negative 6.4. All right. And then my other dude is going to be X is greater than 36 divided by 5. I think that's like 7.2. Yep, good job. Good job, mental math. Wow, coffee hasn't even kicked in, and my mental math is not that shabby. X has got to be greater than 7.2. Again, I think if you solved it just like you solved this one, mathematically you'd get these numbers. It would just be confusing on when you actually answer it because you wouldn't answer a question, X is, where would I even put the numbers? X is greater than 7.2, but then X is less than negative 6.4. Yeah, that interval doesn't make any sense. You're bigger than 7.2, but then you're less, like it's a split, okay? You're supposed to be bigger than 7.2 and then less than 6.4. So it's kind of hard to make a split as one inequality, one compound inequality. So, because this is an OR. ORs don't really go together. So, yeah, that wouldn't, you'd probably make a lot of higher, upper level math teachers upset if you try to do it that way. So let's try not to make them mad. They're pretty smart people. Let's not hurt their feelings. All right. So that was the boring bus stop. It's all in the setup, and it's all in your algebra skills. You got this.